Believe it or not, we're going to start the course right off with a challenge. First, let's take a closer look at the game you'll be making in this course, Bullseye. I'll first show you how it's supposed to work, and then challenge you to pause the video and make yourself a programming to-do list for what you need to do in order to make the app. This is important because it builds a good programming practice of figuring out what you want to do before figuring out how you're going to do it. Let's dive in. When you're making an app in the real world, you usually work with an app designer who puts together some visual designs of what the app you're building should look like. Here we're looking at a visual design for Bullseye created by our designer Luke. I'll put a link to this design in the author's notes so you can check this out on your own as well. Basically, the objective of this game is to put the bullseye, which is on a slider that goes from 1 to 100, as close to a randomly chosen target value as you can. In the example here, the aim is to put the bullseye slider as close as you can to 89. Now when you drag the slider, you won't know exactly where it is, but you're trying to put it to where you think 89 might be, which if I was doing it, I'd say it's probably about right here. When you think you got it, then you tap the Hit Me button, and when you tap that, a pop-up will show up. Let me show you here what that looks like. And it will show you what the slider's value was. So in this case, if you got exactly right and you get 89, you might get 200 points. If you're off, you would get less points, and so on. And then when you're done, you click Start New Round, and back in the game, your score would update from 0 to whatever you just scored, and the round would advance into the next round. And this keeps going until you click the Start Over button, which shows up in the upper left right here, and that would reset the round and the score to 0. So this game probably won't make you an instant millionaire on the App Store, but hey, even future millionaires have to start somewhere. By the way, if you're curious to learn how Luke created the app design that I just showed you, check out our sister course, Your First iOS App, Designing the App. That's a short and sweet and optional course. We'll walk you through the entire design process for Bullseye, from an app idea to a paper sketch to the full visual design that you saw right now. It's your choice. If you're really curious about app design, you can go ahead and pause this course and switch over to the app design course right now. Or if you're more interested in the programming side of things, keep on watching this course and you can check out the app design course later on. The app design course is a completely optional course, but it's really fun and it's nice to know at least a little bit about app design even if you're a developer. So I just wanted to let you know that course is there when you need it. All right, if you're still with us, back to the challenge. Now that you've seen what Bullseye should look like and what the gameplay rules are, it's time for your challenge. Your challenge is to pause the video and make a list of all the things that you think you'll need to do in order to build this game. For example, you might write down, add the Hit Me button, or show a pop-up when the user taps the button. While you're doing this, please split your list into two parts, must-haves and nice-to-haves. The must-haves list should include the bare minimum functionality in order to have a shippable app. This is often called a minimal viable product, or an MVP for short. For the case of Bullseye, it should contain everything you need to do in order to get the core gameplay working. In other words, the ability to actually play the game. The game may not look great yet, and it might not have all the fancy features and bells and whistles, but hey, it works. The nice-to-have list should contain everything else, including features like making the app look amazing or adding the leaderboard screen in. When developing your own apps, it's often a good idea to segment your features into milestones like this, often starting out with an MVP like we're doing here. That way you can get a first version out quickly and start getting feedback as you continue to iterate and add new features. So again, your challenge is to think about all the must-haves and nice-to-haves that you need in order to develop this app, and write those down. It doesn't matter if you don't actually know how to accomplish these tasks yet. When you're making an app, the first step is to figure out what you need to do, and then later on you'll figure out how to do those things. You'd be surprised at how many people start writing code without a clear idea of what they're actually trying to achieve. No wonder they get stuck. So give this your best shot, and you might find it helpful to look back to the design of Bullseye in Figma as you do this. Again, you can find a link in the author's notes. And don't worry, it's no big deal if you draw a blank. You're new to all this. As you proceed through this course and those that follow in our learning path and gain more and more experience making apps, it will get easier and easier. All right, that's it. Now pause the video and good luck. This is what I came up with. For the must-haves list, I simply took the gameplay and cut it into very small chunks. Add an instruction label, add a target label, add a slider and make it go between the values 1 and 100, add a hit me button, style the text like Luke's design, show a pop-up when the user taps the hit me button, read the value of the slider after the user taps the hit me button, generate a random number for the target value, calculate and display the score. If we finish the above items, we should have enough for a minimal viable product. It may not be pretty, but at least we can play the game. Next, here's what I put onto the nice-to-have list to really polish the app. Implement multiple rounds, implement restarting the game, add the leaderboard screen, and make the app look pretty. I might have missed a thing or two, but this looks like a decent list to start with. The reason I gave you this challenge is because whenever I begin working on a new app, I do this exact same thing. I make a list of all the different pieces of functionality that I think my app will need, and this becomes my programming to-do list. You might have a really cool idea for an app, but then when you go to sit down and actually write it, the whole thing can seem overwhelming. There's just so much to do, and where to begin? By cutting up the workload into small chunks like this, it makes the project a lot less daunting. You can always find a small step that is simple enough to make a good starting point, and then take it from there.